Welcome everybody, this is Denny and Karl with Get Wisdom, and today we're going to continue with our channeling series. And today we are going to channel MAP Abductee who's passed and in the light. And this isn't a person that has been specifically identified, but this is where Karl's going to, and Karl, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but you'll be asking Creator to have a volunteer in the light who is an MAP participant, abductee. MAP stands for Mercenary Army Program, and this is can be viewed as somewhat synonymous to the secret space program. Some people are claiming to be members of these organizations, various black projects, if you will, the secret space program. Through the work that Karl has done, and we've done in terms of the interviews and channeling with Creator, another name for this has been brought up from Creator, Mercenary Army Program, which is believed to be a more accurate description of what's going on here. So we have 10 questions today. These are all sourced from people that we know are in the MAP program. They're currently dealing with this in various states of involvement and uninvolvement. There's a great healing need here, and Karl's done a lot of work on this, as I have. Done a lot of interviews on this topic. So we'll discuss this a little bit, and then we'll do the channeling. So thanks for joining us, and thank you, Karl.
Yes, thank you, Danny. Welcome, everybody. We appreciate your tuning into this. This is kind of a heavy-duty subject and issue, and with broad meaning and dark implications, and very, very grave and serious ones. Because what we've been told is this entire interface between the extraterrestrial alliance and the U.S. military is sinister. It's not something that is designed to help. The SSP membership in the whistleblower community who are coming forth really to promote a disclosure of its existence, promoting it as something beneficial and helpful to society, and the long-awaited advent of extraterrestrial human open communication so we can all enjoy the experience and get enlightened and learn from the ETs lots of new things, and maybe have access increasingly to the benefits promised through their advanced technological expertise. You know, getting more inexpensive and powerful ways of travel and using free energy sources so that it solves this old dilemma of having power for the entire world instead of having these beleaguered countries that are power starved. They have no natural resources to speak of. And so they're basically at the mercy of the petroleum giants and all that sort of thing. And the very idea of using the so-called fossil fuels for energy when the universe is filled with energy is kind of crazy, because that's a source of chemicals that has other potential uses. And if you husband that resource and dole it out bit by bit to make certain things like plastics and so on, rather than just burn it to make heat, and power a vehicle or something, that it's kind of crazy in that context that there's abundant energy. So that's the promise of the SSP.
Yeah, and I want to cut in here because there is SSP whistleblowers who portray this as a negative thing, and this was done against their will and stuff. But embedded in a lot of these narratives is a lot of disinformation and misunderstandings about what is actually going on.
Right.
Their personal experience with it wasn't positive. They felt like a lot of things were being done with them where they did not acquiesce or give their permission. Some of them, one of the stories, for example, that I've heard directly was that they are being told by higher celestial beings to stay in the SSP because they're going to have a role in correcting things down the road. So they're being encouraged to participate, cooperate with the program because they're going to have an opportunity down the road to turn the corner and make it into something positive. They're going to be a key player in that. My understanding is that this is just another ruse. There's many different scenarios being given to these people, including implanted memories and all kinds of things, experiences with other extraterrestrials that are, from what we've learned, really not players. There's other extraterrestrial groups that are actually imposters, giving out false stories about what is the dynamic in the greater galaxy. For instance, one of the stories that we hear is that there's a contingent of off-planet human civilizations that work with ETs in a great trading complex, where the humans are actually used in some cases or used with, like in a co-equal kind of environment where they're involved in intergalactic trade and this kind of thing. And there's these huge off-planet human civilizations. So you'll hear a lot of these stories that kind of keep the hook in the fish's mouth, if you will.
Yes.
To say that, well, maybe it's not all positive, and that's the other thing I want to mention too. There's also a story around the SSP where you have like a dark faction and a positive faction. So you have some of these SSP participants, actually working for like Solar Warden or something, where their mission is to protect the Earth, and then you have these other groups that are, traders, pirate types that are working with negative ETs. So the stories go on and on and on like this, and it can be quite confusing, and a lot of it's quite convincing. Not only for the people who are claiming to be participants, but the people who are hearing their stories.
Well, it's always the case that there is a lot of mind control manipulation being done in parallel. So viewers, listeners, will be managed. They will receive subliminal messages deep within their subconscious mind to instill propaganda. And so this isn't a level playing field.
No.
And it's not like people can come forward, tell their story, and the discerning listener can use their own gut feel and their heart and maybe get some divine guidance and sort it all out and come out with a really good and accurate assessment of things. It's really, really hard to do that when you're being programmed from within, within your own mind. And it's not like this just starts when you show up and you look at some YouTube video or watch a broadcast or a webcast and someone is on a panel or they're a guest spot position where they're talking about their experiences and you're hearing this for the first time. You've been prepped and programmed for years now about all things ET related to have decided views and opinions within your own being.
Right.
And they'll cultivate you depending on which way you lean because they want opposing views to exist always. It serves them.
Right.
So someone who believes in the ET story, there are ETs, it's logical, there's a lot of evidence they're here and so on. If that comes out too soon, it doesn't serve them. So they'll use the people who are innately skeptical and drive the point home to them. Anyone who talks about ETs is crazy. Don't listen to them. Go run the other way. They're going to suck the life out of you. They're loonies or whatever they want to say.
Right.
And people with that leaning will recoil in horror. Oh, I better watch out. And so that keeps the lid on things, and they love turmoil and conflict anyway,
right?
Because to them, the humans don't matter,
right?
What we think doesn't matter. We're just here to be herded about and made fun of and to be manipulated in various ways for kind of a game that goes on.
Yeah.
But
the ETs, benevolent ETs, which do exist, aren't part of that game. They're like observers, They're honoring the free will aspect of the human experience, where they're not going to come in and interfere and set the record straight. In some rare cases, they may have like a psychic impulse connections, with humans, but it's very rare. It's quite dangerous for them to do any kind of engagement with humans. Probably the closest example we have of kind of like any kind of messaging or interrelationships between benevolent ETs and humans is the crop circles.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's an indirect kind of communication designed for upliftment as a kind of a teaser to get us thinking and helping us tune in intuitively to them and to their message that there is a force for good in the universe.
Right. And also as a warning. Some of the crop circles,
also a warning, absolutely.
The crop circles are showing up kind of like a road sign, stop, because if you don't, you might get hit by a car. So they're like signs like we see in the world, alerting us to something that we otherwise wouldn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to put this on the record, the only channeler of benevolent ETs I know of who is legitimate is Barbara Marciniak. She's the only one who is in alignment and talking to true benevolent ETs. This is the Pleiadians. They are in a higher dimension. They're not here physically, and they're not coming here physically, and they won't be allowed to come, even if they wanted to, which they don't, because they would be set upon, and they'd have to go to war with the physical ETs down here.
Yeah.
This is the kind of world that we're in. So we're not going to have a rescue from any white hat ETs coming to help us.
Right.
It would mean war, and we would be the hostages, and we would be slaughtered.
Yeah.
As a reprisal, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So that isn't even on the boards as a possibility.
Right.
So we're waiting to see if the divine realm can stay the hand of the extraterrestrial alliance that is in bed with us surreptitiously with this group we're talking about, the Secret Space Program / Mercenary Army Program, because they have cultivated a group of warriors, humans,
right,
to do their bidding and giving them a false narrative and duping them. So I think we'll hear about that quite a lot. So I don't want to go on and on about that.
And I also want to reiterate that the questions that we were supplied for this, I think I would be up to the task to come up with some good questions. But I really felt that that the people that we know about already who are personally involved in this incarnation, alive here on the planet right now, who have been involved in the healing effort, and knowing full well, in some cases, where they stand in relation to all this, they are the ones who supplied the questions. So I have 10 questions. None of them were written by me. They were written by them, which I think is important. I don't know why, but I have a very, I don't know, I'm very motivated to help these people. We've checked. I'm not part of the MAP. Apparently that hasn't been an issue for my incarnations on Earth, as far as we know. And I'm not really particularly interested in that too much for my own sake, but for these people, and there's just only a handful of them that know what we know about the MAP, them also having been involved in it, and then taking it upon themselves to become involved in a healing effort, which is quite an undertaking given what they've personally been, put through. So, a lot of credit goes to them. There's, there's just not very many of these people who, first of all, most people that are in MAP have no idea that they're in it. They don't know. They don't know that they're in it. It's a walled off part of their existence. And so the ones that do know are very few and far between, and a very tiny, tiny percentage of those people are the ones who supplied these questions. In that
right.
cohort, if you will. Very small number of people.
Well, and, frankly, Get Wisdom isn't widely known yet.
Right.
You have to be lucky to be inspired to click on Get Wisdom and stick around long enough to figure out what the heck it is and what it might mean and that kind of thing. It's just the nature of having to do an outreach against the headwinds, because the vast aggregate of humanity, except for a few, have never heard of any of this at all,
right.
and have no awareness that it exists, and that ETs are real. They're all over the place, and people see them every day and comment on it. No one listens. No one takes it seriously. No one puts the pieces together. Well, if 100,000 plus people see bizarre things flying around in the sky, that has to mean something, every year.
Right.
Every year.
Right.
It goes on. So every day people are seeing something bizarre that matches no known source.
Right.
And then the personal encounters, the abduction stories, and on and on and on. But yet no one cares. The media are completely uninterested in the subject. None of this is normal. But it's all an orchestration and it's managed. So to think you could have people participating in something and then keep it secret is child's play for the extraterrestrial alliance.
But for the common person, it seems preposterous. It's a ridiculous claim. It's something that wouldn't even be considered even marginally. It's just nuts. It's the rantings of a crazy person to make such a truth claim.
Well, and the actual reasons why this can happen run very deep. We've discovered there is a level of the mind, a deep subconscious, we call it, that you can't talk to and hear from with your conscious self. But it's the largest part of your mind. And it's a defect. This was orchestrated to be manipulated to cause this disconnection. And we've suffered from it all through human history, not being able to tune into ourselves very well.
Right.
And so that's the playing ground of the extraterrestrials and the dark spirits. Then go into that part of your mind and have a field day because they're unopposed. And they'll program you deep within yourself to have many, many beliefs that don't serve you. And that will color your thinking. It just does.
Yeah.
So we're all subject to that kind of manipulation, and it matters.
Yeah.
So this is what we're fighting.
Right. And the fight is not a fight in the conventional sense of the word. It's actually prayer request to the divine realm to raise everybody up, to heal the dark spirit cohort, the negative ETs, everything, to raise everything up. And so it's in that respect, it is a divine realm's problem. It's creator's problem, but they're here to help us solve the problem, but they're not going to do it unless we request that help specifically. So part of this, in this one in particular, is to find out, well, what's the problem? Who are the players? What are they up against? How did they become victims, and then how are they now viewed as perpetrators? And the MAP is, as you've said in the past, they are the tip of the spear. So there's a great healing need here, and that's one of the reasons that we're doing this channeling.
And yes, and the bottom line is we need a divine solution. This won't be solved through politics. It won't be solved through military action of any kind. They control the governments. They control the military all around the world. We have the illusion of freedom, but we're not really free. We're free to go to war with one another as human against human. We're not free to take on the extraterrestrial alliance. That will not be allowed by them. They'll kill us first. So this needs divine assistance to raise up these interlopers and get them to move out and move on and leave us to lick our wounds and heal ourselves. So that is what we're about here at Get Wisdom, to help bring that about. So by going to the light and talking to people who have been here, been hurt, and contributed to things, even as perpetrators, is instructive, because it helps open eyes and awaken people to a higher awareness of the nature of the problem we face, and that there are divine solutions available to us. So we need a quorum. We need enough people reaching out in prayer and doing healing work. And that can make the difference.
Right. Okay, well put. So we have 10 questions, like I said, and so it's going to potentially be a long channeling. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll see what this MAP abductee in the light has to say.
All right. And as a channeler, I just want to say that I will go into a state of consciousness I need to facilitate the channeling proper. And I do my work through the creator of all that is. I ask creator to connect me to my target. And I do that for accuracy and for security as well. Most channelers do not. And they end up talking to an imposter. And all things are allowed down here in the land of free will. You can do anything that you want, anything that you choose. The divine won't stop you.
Right.
That's because there's a sacred agreement to let us run the world. Scary thought, that. The kids have come in from the playground and taken over the school building.
Yeah.
And, and of course, right now we have the rioters on the streets, nationwide, taking over the cities. So that's not a bad example of what can happen when the divine gets kind of pushed to the side and people are responding to darker inner impulses. So I just want to make that statement, as I do always, because some people may be wandering in here, having gone to many channelers and trying to figure things out. And most people have not heard that said anywhere.
Right.
It's not a popular view. It's not well known, and it goes against the grain. Sorry, can't help it. But if you think about the fact, almost 100% of channelers are only talking about how everything is going to be wonderful, or already is, and there's just some human negativity. And those people just need some time to be brought along, and then everything's going to be fine. That's a far cry from reality. We have a huge unmet healing need that is raw and causing suffering, and we need to be actively working to heal it with divine help. And it has to be done in a partnership passively waiting for God to come down is not going to work.
Right.
God's not going to do that. You have to make a request.
Yes.
That's what free will and free agency mean.
A sincere request with an understanding of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone who says, the ascension is coming and it's going to carry you along, nothing much for you to do, you're set, is disempowering you. They're taking away your power to actually do something to bring about the possibility of an ascension.
Right.
So that's kind of like a capsule summary of the contrast between our message and the vast majority of others out there thinking they're being spiritual when they're not. They're not talking about God, the Almighty, the holy source of everything in the universe. They're promoting a kind of do-it-yourself spirituality built on wishful thinking of a positive nature. So it's easy to take. It's got a sugar coating, but it won't do anything. It's an empty.
Right. And the proof's in the pudding, because this has been a popular theme for, 30, 40 years now, at least in modern times. I'm sure it's gone back before that. And things aren't getting better. So if you want to find out whether that approach works, all you have to do is open your eyes and look at the world.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay, so I'll do my thing, and then we will hear from this MAP member.
Okay.
From the light, from the heavenly realm.
Right.
So someone who has been here and passed on and has returned to the light and is with Creator and is volunteering to answer these questions for us and help teach us about what this organization is about, what it means, and some of the heartfelt questions posed by members themselves,
right,
who are wanting to break away totally and be free and return to a divine path. Okay. This is your MAP volunteer speaking.
Thank you for joining us. What methods and signs do the ETs use to identify humans that have reincarnated on Earth again after being part of the MAP in previous incarnations? How do the ETs rationalize this propensity for humans to reincarnate over and over, and how much attention and credence do they give to it?
They see this phenomenon of reincarnation as something natural that just happens, much in the way humans take for granted their world is filled with miraculous organisms, natural beauty, and many natural phenomena that just happen, and find no great wonder in it. It is just the nature of beings to accept reality on its face without probing more deeply, unless there is an inner yearning for greater understanding or something causing them to seek a solution for an apparent discrepancy or problem of some kind. If one is not curious, one will not question, one will not learn, and one will not grow. The extraterrestrials involved with humanity lack depth because they have no spiritual core. That is the wellspring of innovation and creativity. It is the yearning of the soul that is the driving force for knowledge, for growth, the pursuit of excellence, and the accumulation of an increasing repertoire of talents and capabilities for interfacing with the universe and drawing meaning from it and aspiring to ever greater heights of expression turning the desire of the soul into an actual event and interaction that brings joy in some way. These beings in your midst are loveless beings because they are spiritually empty, and love is a divine attribute. The greatest of ironies of the atheist claiming they can be just as nice a person as a devout religious follower is missing the point. They are still in a honeymoon, having come recently from being with the Almighty and carrying forth that reality energetically within them, even as their mind does not grasp this and intellectually absorb the reality. They are divine themselves. They simply take for granted they can have love feelings and think somehow this sprang up from nature, when it is the profoundest of divine qualities. So the extraterrestrials can see in the Akashic records and know the past history of any human being they inspect. So they will know who has been allied with them, either as an unwitting dupe, heavily manipulated by mind control to serve as their minion, perhaps as a president of the United States or a cabinet official, a member of parliament, someone in government, regionally or locally, as a leader, or a member of the military serving in a position of leadership and authority. Those who have been great teachers, but corrupted to constrain what is taught to limited perspectives, becomes a trusted ally over time. Not that they are respected for their malleability and compliance with the manipulation. The opposite is the case. They view humans as weaklings and underlings and despise their very existence because it seems a mockery to them in their brilliance and greatness as they perceive it, glorying in the power they hold of life and death over other beings. That is their God. It is their own belief in their personal magnificence and the power they have to kill and destroy is making them great. This is the darkest and most evil corruption of things that one can experience. To take the wonders of creation and somehow see greatness in its destruction. This is what perversion means and is being evidenced and on display all through human culture, because it is a reflection of the extraterrestrial views. They impose their way of thinking on humans all the time. Whenever they create a manipulation to exploit someone, they are giving them a script out of their own playbook, that there will be someone wanting power over another and will be unscrupulous to get it. This is why your politics are corrupt. Your law enforcement is corrupt. Your businesses are corrupt. The government oversight institutions, monitoring, enforcing rules of conduct and safeguards in all of the important areas regarding the environment, the practice of medicine, and the running of the institutions and the very infrastructure allowing civilization with water and sewer systems. All of the governance, the standards for quality, and so on, are being managed by beings manipulatable to worsen things. And this is often what actually happens. This is why you poison your water to prevent tooth decay. It seems to make sense on the surface and is reinforced with mind control manipulation to not be questioned. Someone who does question is vilified because people are programmed as well to fight with the whistleblower, to fight with the skeptic, and to see them as a source of evil or possible deranged thinking. The tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. There are many tools used by the state as a minion of the extraterrestrial alliance to bring such things about. So, in being able to see where people have been, what they have been a part of in the past, allows them to quickly identify former recruits in the Mercenary Army Program and re-enlist them. This is done against the will of the individual, but always includes a ceremony during which they declare a free will choice to participate. That is what the conscious mind believes is happening, but does not see that their deep subconscious has been ordered to report. So naturally, they will be influenced from within to say yes. And there will be a sugarcoating in the offering as well, with a cover story that their mission is nothing less than to protect the earth from unfriendly forces and perhaps even save humanity one day by maintaining their presence of strength out and about, using spacecraft, surveillance techniques, vigilance, and targeted missions to deal with intruders who are encroaching and corrupting human civilization. There are many scenarios used to justify killing human beings, poisoning them, carrying out acts of terror and bio-warfare. Your current pandemic being but the latest example. In reality, there are dozens of active scourges of this kind circling the globe again and again and again to infect each new generation of human beings, and with lifelong impairments in many individuals to drag them down, bring about an early death, or to make them suffer lifelong and be an economic burden. All of these activities are aided by the Mercenary Army Program as the so-called boots on the ground to deliver the poison, deliver the virus, deliver the energy that will impair alter, distort, or kill fellow human beings, when given a cover story, they are being manipulated or are actual imposters from other realms, seeming to be in human form as a ruse. When people's minds are distorted and manipulated to believe whatever they are told by their commanders, they will do anything, including the suspension of their normal morality, in service to what they believe and have been told is a higher cause, a higher duty, and a greater good. This is taught in all the schools. If you have an opportunity to kill someone who is about to kill 5 others, will you do it? Should you do it? Such views are widely defended in the so-called ethics training of the human young. This is a perversion of human society, as is everything they touch, and they touch everything. So you can be sure the poison has already spread and been incorporated in everything that takes place. When they look at the Akashic records and see one of their former minions, they will groom them for a new round of participation if there needs to be a growth in the ranks. There is always some attrition through aging or death. And the increased pressures on humanity being orchestrated currently require a ramping up in the forces. So you currently have well over 1 million active members in this large army of humans who are not serving humanity, but serving the dark extraterrestrial alliance unwittingly and almost robotically in their blinded allegiance to the extraterrestrial cause. It is covert in organization and implementation, but its consequences are severe and manifestly present worldwide. The graves are filled with their handiwork. The suffering is enormous from what they have caused to happen. None of this is in divine alignment. It is all a perversion of things and will darken the souls of all who are involved and participate. And the influence brought to bear on humanity darkens them as well, because the chain of events sets in motion a huge wave of negative karmic consequences. When you have been victimized by the Mercenary Army Program, this will create a karmic potential for you to suffer in future lifetimes in a similar way. It might be brought about by the Mercenary Army Program yet again, matching that karmic destiny, or a human perpetrator or perpetrators who will align with that karmic potential and give you a good thrashing as a consequence. This is why attending to one's karmic history is so very important. The extraterrestrials know that the karmic history of serving them makes their job easier, by taking that young life who was a former recruit and bringing them along makes it simpler because they can reawaken the prior training in the young recruit and have less work to do to get that person functioning at a high level and following orders unquestioningly once again. They have been primed through experience and carry within them the seeds of their own destruction to follow such a path. But there is no conscious choice given to them unless they are in great spiritual alignment from the earliest of times in the current life. They will be quite vulnerable, and it is almost a given. They will be taken up, taken in, and manipulated to participate in the program.
Thank you. Is it true that MAP are or can be augmented with mechanical or technical parts that are implemented into their bodies? For instance, like an arm that can be used as its own weapon, and devices that the ETs use in the MAP's abductees' eyes to see what they see. If so, how does this affect the body while living their normal lives? Does this cause sickness and other side effects?